We'll give everybody about a minute or so just to kind of get in. So let's get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Erhard Kozik. I'm the Marketing and Events Manager here at the Boulder SBDC, and I'm here with my colleague, Rachel Garcia. I'd like to welcome you all today to our Certifications A to Z workshop. Very briefly, I'd like to introduce you to our state's TechSource commercialization program. This program is designed to support science and technology ventures throughout Colorado. Businesses are pre-startup through advanced second stage. So if you have an innovative technology, or you are likely a fit for the program regardless of your stage of business. SBDC TechSource commercialization focuses especially on sources of non-dilutive capital where there is no equity given, technology commercialization, and SBIR, STTR grants. We also cover R&D tax credits, government accounting, IP protection, access to capital, and market research. We provide customized expert consulting as well at no cost to you. And we also provide relevant workshops, events, and accelerator programs. After this webinar, if you're interested in meeting one-on-one with an SBDC TechSource specialist or attending events, workshops, or webinars, please visit our website at sbdc-techsource.org to get started. Just a few quick things here. If you're located outside the state of Colorado, we encourage you to check out your local SBDC and resources for your individual state. Today's webinar is also being recorded, and you will receive an email following the presentation with a link to the recording. And a couple housekeeping things. Everybody is on mute. If you do have questions, please type them into the chat bar, and we'll get to them at the end of the session. I'll hand it over to Andre to introduce himself and get started.
Okay, well, let's get started. For those who do not know me, my name is Andre Hargrave. I am one of the consultants for the Boulder Small Business Development Center. I actually own a governmental relations firm. That's what I do for a living. And I've been in the industry, I like to say 25 plus years, but it's getting close to 30. So I appreciate the SBDC giving me an opportunity. I'm going to share with you what I know about governmental contracting, especially the certification part. I believe that we are, I can't really see how many people we have right now, but I think we're small enough where you can actually ask live questions. So if you just type them in the chat box or something like that, I'll be able to answer them. So I believe the way that we're going to get started is, one second, let me just make sure that you all can see my screen here. Rachel, can you see it?
We can, yep.
Okay, all right. So with that said, I've been a consultant with Boulder SBDC when I moved here, so almost 15 years. So I've been handling a lot of the governmental contracting at various levels. So my expertise goes everywhere from the basic, how do you do certifications, to the advocacy and lobbying at the procurement level. So I do travel a lot, speak with governmental procurement people. But one of the first things that I'm going to say first, before I get into the real meat of this whole thing, is thank you for attending. And like I said, if I can answer any of your questions, please. There's probably not going to be too many questions that I can answer, but you never know. I appreciate getting stumped every now and then. This class is certifications from A to Z. We're scheduled for an hour and a half, and it's probably going to take about an hour and a half to get through all of this. I tried to cram as much information in as I could, so at least you'll be able to leave this session and be able to implement something. So a little bit about me. I'm a veteran. I did 7 years active duty. I then did 2 years Minnesota National Guard, got out the military. I'm service disabled veteran, Global Sales Advisors is the firm that I created many, many years ago, back in 1999, which was, I think, my second business after the Army. I also currently hold the contract for the uh, Federal Minority Business Development Agency, the Colorado division. And here's some of the other elements in which I've held the contracts for as a federal procurement consultant. Now, this class, I love this class because this is the only opportunity really that I get to talk to people from the ground up and get that initial, that base correct when selling to the government. And when I refer to selling to the government, it's a little different than probably what most of you all think about selling to the government. And here's what I mean by that. So when I look at the government, I see municipalities, and in municipalities, I see cities, I see capital cities, I see townships and cooperatives, and all the way down. In the federal space, I see DOD, I see federal agencies that breaks off into two segments. You have true federal agencies, and then you have civilian run agencies, right? So I do see that from an executive agency point of view. Federal laboratories, federal corporations, NGOs. So in my world, it's a little different. And here's why it makes a difference with certifications, because they all buy differently. They don't all buy the same. So a lot of times when people go to certification courses and those kind of things, and the misnomer is that you get certified and everybody buys the same. And it's the furthest thing from the truth, right? With that said, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my perspective. So my perspective is going to be different from a lot of people, and probably from a lot of people that you've spoken to in the past, because from my element, my world is business development. That is it. It is a zero-sum game. We're going after an opportunity. We either win or we didn't win. There's no in between in the world that I actually work in, right? So when we talk about certifications, I believe in certifications for one reason and one reason only. And the reason I believe in certifications because it allows us to have a slight advantage when we're going after business opportunities with governmental entities. Now, as far as certifications A to Z, on the screen, you see several certifications, more than several, quite a few, right? This is just the state of Colorado and the feds. So when we're looking at certifications, one of the most important things to understand, and I want everybody to kind of get this, is when we're talking about certifications, we're talking about something attached to a money base, a budget, right? That's what we're talking about, because a certification without a budget isn't anything. So as we go through this, you hear about certifications, and you've heard people talk about it, maybe even been to the agency that certifies, right, here locally. Couple things to remember. One, I know a lot of those individuals. They're my friends. We may have had libations together, drinks, right? But at the same time, they don't own companies, and those companies are not certified, and they're not calling into other agencies trying to market a product or service. So from that perspective, when it comes to true application, it works a little differently. So let's talk about it. Certifications: DBE, MBE, WBE, EDW, OSB, HubZone. A lot of these I've been. My firm is Service Disabled Veteran. We were DBE, ESB, all of that at one time. We have not been woman owned. Can't get that one. And tribal. Haven't been tribal, and we're not Native Alaskan, and we'll kind of touch on those. Those are not true certifications, but they're designations that an entity can get or an individual can get to help position them with going after governmental contracts. And so one of the first things I love to do, I just love to do this, is let's get rid of some myths right off the bat. Let's get everybody on the same sheet of music, right? So one of the first things I'm always asked, if you go after certification, you're guaranteed to get certified if you submit your application. No, absolutely not. People tend to, so there's true application, and then there's commonplace application. So commonplace means that this is kind of what happens. This is what you see most of the time. And so it becomes commonplace. You make the assumption that's the way it actually is. It is not. Any and every certification can decline your application. They can do it because documentation is missing. They can do it because something came up in their background check. If they do background checks that they did not disclose, they can reject your application because you do not fit the parameters of it. So certifications, none of them are absolutely guaranteed, right? You're guaranteed to get certified if you're a minority. Once again, let's go to question one. You are not. Depending on the certification, give you an example. If you're going after your 8A certification under the federal space, be it minority, woman, whatever, approximately 95% of all those applications are rejected. Not once, not twice, because on average, you're going to get rejected 3 times before they officially say you don't certify. You can't be certified, right? And that could take anywhere from 6 months to a year plus, right? So even as a minority, even though you are considered socially disadvantaged, and we'll touch on what that means, does not mean that you're going to get certified. And if you have questions, just put them in the chat and Rachel will let me know from that perspective. Agencies have to purchase from you because it's the law, right? Is that true? Yeah, kind of, right? There are rules and regulations as far as subcontracting, purchasing from diverse groups, purchasing from socially disadvantaged individuals. There are rules about that, but what I tell everyone is, yeah, they may have to purchase from a disadvantaged entity, but they don't have to purchase from you, right? So always keep that in mind. So I've been in meetings where I've heard people stand up and say, you have to purchase from me because I'm a minority. And the truth is they don't, right? So never say that. That's the quickest way to make an enemy. So next one. Getting certified is more important than marketing. Absolutely not. No, don't let anybody tell you that. Most of my clients are not certified entities, and we win contracts all the time, right? So it is really how you market into the entity. Now there are applications that do come up, right? Something can be set aside where you need to be certified to go after that, or it could be a situation where the contracting officer is looking for a way to utilize you and they want to utilize that certification, or they have to go out and advertise and they're trying to avoid that. Yes, those things do happen, but with all that said, you still got a market to get in front of that individual who makes that decision. The federal government has a minority certification. I love this question, right? Because the answer is, we're talking federal government, the answer is no, that does not exist. There is no minority certification in the federal space. There are certifications that lend themselves for you to be able to be granted your certification because you are socially disadvantaged based on your ethnicity, race, creed, sexual orientation. Yes, that does exist, and that is very, very prevalent, but there is absolutely no certification in the federal space that says minority anything. Let's just get that out there. A couple of more of these. Second set of myths. If my company gets certified, it means that I am poor because only poor companies get certified. Now, this sounds so tragic, but a lot of people believe that. A lot of people who've had a little success actually believe that if they get certified, it demeans them in some form or fashion. That is absolutely not true. When we're talking about getting certified, we're talking about size and ability to perform against major entities that you would compete against. It has nothing about you being poor. I know multimillionaires who are certified, right? There's rules that go with that, but absolutely, that does not mean that you're poor. It means you're small, because you got to be small to get certified in some cases. There are some certifications in the corporate space where you could be a multi-billion-dollar company and get certified. And we have one of those in our portfolio. Only minorities can get certified. No. When you hear people say this, you got to nip it in the bud. That is not true. If you are a small business in almost every state in the union, probably every state in the union, there are social economic certifications. There are gender-based certifications and ethnicity-based certifications at the municipal level, but there's also just small business certifications that anybody can get, non-ethnic specific. Anybody can get them, right? So if someone tells you I can't get certified because I'm a non-minority, that is not true. That's someone who's been ill-informed, or misinformed, right? So just let that be. And if you have any questions, call the SBDC. They'll reach out to me and I'll explain it through the rules and regs. Corporate certifications work the same way that governmental certifications work. Absolutely not. No, 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 right? Because in the federal space, they can set things aside for a woman-owned business. They can set things aside for the veteran-owned business or for whoever. And at the municipal level, they can set it aside. We won't call it a set aside, but they can reserve it, right, for a certain group of people who've been certified a designation. Fair enough. But if a corporation does that, there are public laws that will violate, right? So they do work differently, and we'll kind of touch base on those kind of things. Almost done. The government will not purchase my product. That's absolutely, it really depends on the product, because you got to remember, the best thing to remember is that any government, federal, state, smaller municipalities, they only make policy and regulations. Everything else, absolutely everything else is purchased. Everything. Right? Your pencils, your pens, your carpet, everything is purchased from somebody else, right? Now, with that said, there are little things that do happen, right? That we have to be cognizant of, right? So I have my cell phone right here. And if I'm representing a cell phone manufacturer, because I'm, probably not making cell phones in the United States, but if I represent a cell phone manufacturer, the first thing I have to realize is this agency might have 50,000 cell phones, right? Because there are agencies that do that, but they're already under contract. So before I can sell that, that contract has to come up to term for me to even get in line to be able to win it again. And that's where most small businesses kind of get really confused and frustrated, right? Because they don't realize that they're in a line of hundreds or maybe even thousands of other companies waiting to do business with that agency. So that's something to consider. And finally, if my business, now, hold on. You see me smiling. I just got to share this with you. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, right? I got nothing against you if you are, right? But this one I'm going to debunk right here, kind of. So if you do business with the federal government, that they can audit your financials and they can see what you're doing on your computer. Okay. Yes, if you are on a let's say you're doing business in the DoD world, right? And you have a business, you're doing business with the Army, you're doing business with the Navy and the Marines, right? DCAA can come in and audit you to make sure you're not co-mingling funds. So like if I'm a consultant and I work for your firm and you have me on all three of these projects, and I'm working for the Army one day, but you're billing the Army and the Navy for my time, right? That's commingling of funds. You got equipment that you're using for the Army, but now you're using that same equipment for the Navy on the second half of the day or the second half of the week, right? But you're not separating that time. When they come in and do a DCAA audit, yeah, they'll see that. So yes, they will see your financials. If you're part of the 8A program, which is actually a management program, yeah, they're gonna periodically come in and say, hey, how you doing? Let's see your books. Where you at? How's business? That is absolutely true. But you signed to do that. Now let's talk about the other side of it. Can they see your computer? The truth is, unless you're on a special project or you're on a governmental facility or something like that, nobody cares. Nobody cares, right? For the most part. So just walking onto a military facility, yeah, you do surrender some rights to some element of privacy, but chances are they're not looking to see what you're doing on your computer unless you're doing something malicious or you're suspicious in nature. But with that said, every major corporation does that too. Every major corporation has the ability, if you're on their network, to see what you're doing. So you don't have to worry about that. Right? When you're not on that governmental website, do they have spy bots that's watching everything you do? Absolutely not. No one has time for that. For most of us, we're not that important. Right? So with that said, none of those myths are out of the way. Let's move on to how we actually do this, shall we? Okay.
Andre, we had a question
Okay.
in there.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on promoting your certification on your capability statement? You want to win on your capabilities, and past performance and certification seem to be the cherry on top.
Yes, but let's examine who that goes to. Absolutely. On your capability statement, there's some general things that every capability statement should have. They should have, first of all, who you are, and please don't write long paragraphs because nobody reads them. Put it in bullet point form, right? You should have your industry codes. You should have your certifications. You should have your industry codes, past performance, right? In bullet form. Now, you got to remember who this goes to. Your capability statement actually goes to contracting or the small business liaison officer. If I'm a program manager, yeah, your capability is nice. It's a brochure, but you know what I really need? I need to see your technical resume. I need to see what you've done, who you've done it for, and how you did it. That goes to a program manager. But that visually pleasing element, that's the brochure that's kind of beefed up with industry codes and all that, absolutely, everything should go on there. Your codes, who you worked for. If you can get a testimonial, small, on there, right? A couple testimonials at the bottom, all that helps because all that's a selling point. So absolutely. But remember, capability statements go to contracting primarily, and they go to the small business liaison officer, who is the small business marketing entity for you. That's who it's going to. And the reason you want it in a lot of bullet points with all the bells and whistles is because they have to figure out where you fit. Right? So if I look at this and I say, Andre does marketing, he does advocacy, he has done lobbying, he's done this, they know where to put me. But if they look at it and go, Andre Hargrave, he's da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, they're not. Chunk, nobody's got time for that. So absolutely, put your certifications on there that apply. Right? So one of the things that I get a lot when we're representing clients is we'll do a capability briefing with an agency, and they'll say, and we'll say, because I don't send them ahead of time, and they'll say, Andre, oh, this is great. Hey, can we get a copy of your capability statement, right? And I'll say, okay, our general capability statement, or do you want it actually catered to your agency? 9 times out of 10, they'll say, oh, okay, can you cater to our agency? Because I want to get it over to such and such. Okay, you do hear those kind of things, but I kind of digress, got off the case, and I just like to share information. So yes, put your information on there. All right, so fun fact, I like to throw these little things out here because over the decades of doing this, certain things are just kind of funny, right? They're just humorous, and there's nothing you can't get upset over it. You just gotta, it's just funny, right? So one of the things that I know that a lot of people don't realize is, yes, you can see it on the screen. The US federal government is the largest employer in the world, right? But what does that mean? Let's look at it in real numbers. Walmart has 1.5 million employees estimated. That's a lot of people on payroll. That's a huge organization. The US federal government has 9.1 million employees. Wow. Now, that is including DOD, that's including reservists, that's including everybody that's on their payroll, everybody that's, on a consistent payroll. So, but 9.1 million. And guess what? Everything has to be purchased for those individuals. Isn't that says, see, that kind of stuff makes me excited because I'm like, those are opportunities, right? But even if we move past that, I don't have a slide for it, but there's over 54,000 sub-governments in the United States. That are the municipalities is what we're referring to. 54,000. That's 54,000 at least CIOs, if not more, because some of these things are huge and they have multiple CIOs and all that kind of stuff, right? CTOs. That is a target-rich environment for all my Army folks out there, or military folks, sorry, including you, Space Force. That's a target-rich environment, okay? Let's talk about this because this is the cusp of everything right here, right? What is a social economic certification? Because that's what you're applying for. You're applying for a social economic certification. Now, a social economic certification is an acknowledgement or recognition of a specific business category related to business ownership. Long story short, it basically says, me as a minority, I own majority share, my company can be certified as a minority business. That's it. That's all it means. Doesn't mean anything else other than that, right? Now, where it changes is if I got certified through the city and county of Denver, as a minority business enterprise, and there's a contract for, just go with me here, for construction, right? And 18% of this contract needs to go to a minority business. Now that minority certification is worth value, right? But there are a bunch of certifications that have no value because there's never any budget or budget allocation tied to it. And we can talk about that later. So write that down. We'll parking lot that and come back to it. But let me give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about, and you're going to see how things change, right? So example one, real simple, right? If you're a woman-owned business, you own 51% of your company, then a company can be certified as a woman-owned business officially, right? Cut and dry. Let's go more. A corporate, this is example two. Now this gets complicated. Let's say your company's complicated. Let's say that you have shareholders or you have multiple owners of different ethnicities and all of those kind of things, right? If you own a corporation, we're talking about stock ownership, right? So it is who owns the majority share of stock. Where that's the difference. I know some people are going, well, you still got to own 51% of the stock. No, you don't. So in the corporate world, right, it is majority shareholders. So if I'm a corporation and I own a single share, I'm the largest shareholder, and I own 30%, and all the rest is divested into, you know, maybe 5 levels of ownership here, whatever. I am majority shareholder. I can get my whole corporation certified in the corporate space. Can't do that in the governmental space, but in the corporate space, I can do that, right? If as a service-disabled veteran, let's say that me and three other service-disabled veterans own 10% of the stock, we can get certified in the corporate space as veteran-owned by collaborating all of our shares. We have to put it in the bylaws and the operating agreements and all those kind of things, but we can still in the corporate space get certified as a minority or a woman or a veteran owned business. We can do that. So this is really when it comes down to understanding how certifications work. And if you can understand that, as it becomes more layered and it looks more complicated, the more fun it can be, right? Now, how do certifications work? All right, here's the meat of everything, folks. If you don't see, if you don't understand anything else that I'm talking about, let me know, and we're going to talk about this even more, right? So the way certifications work in real life, an agency has an option based on research. That's what it's based on, research. And there's various levels and elements of what we consider research, right? That's a broken quotation, research in quotation, right? So set aside. That's the first thing we always hear about certification. Oh, I can get a set aside. Now, municipalities have moved away from the word set aside. They call them reserved now, right? They call them reserved opportunities. But let me tell you what that is. Cell phone again, right? So an agency wants cell phones. Go with me. I'm a simple guy, Army, so I'm gonna say 10,000 because it's a nice smooth number. 10,000 cell phones, right? And they go out and they do their research and they look to see if there's any veteran-owned companies who can supply these cell phones. And let's say several, there's rules about how many have to apply and all this kind of stuff, right? But we won't get into that. Several of us respond back. We don't even know each other, but we respond back. And in some cases, it forces the agency to say, okay, we have competition that is qualified, operative term, qualified. So we're going to set this aside, veteran. Now, what you see behind it is the word competitive. So it was set aside veteran where only veterans could bid on this, right? Now, here's the tricky part about that. Since now it's 3 veterans bidding on this, our certification is nullified because everybody's veteran, so we have to compete on size and ability to compete. But anyway, who we did block is we blocked, who is my phone? Well, you know, they don't make phones, but whoever makes phones, we effectively blocked them from competing by the 3 of us getting together and saying, hey, agency, so we created a set aside. That's what most people know about it, right? So that's one thing. That's you'll see a lot of that. The other one is a sole source, right? A sole source is really when the agency says, okay, we've done our homework. We've talked to some folks, and I think Andre is the only one who can really do this. So let's just of these other companies that we talked about, let's not even do it competitively. Let's just do a sole source award to Andre, because he's the only one that we feel is capable of performing that work. That's sole source. That's it. That's what everybody wants. That's like the grail of contracting is sole source work. And that's what everybody fights for. If you can't get sole source, then we won't set aside. But there's one more better. There's one more better than sole source, right? And that one is a direct award. Direct award is cool, right? So in a direct award, I like to say it's off of origination. So origination looks a lot like sales for the average sales guy, right? You go to an agent, or girl, it can be girl or guy. You walk into an agency. Hey, I sell cell phones. Would you like to buy my cell phone? They say yes, right? No competition, no allocate. They just said, okay, it's your lucky day, Andre. We're going to buy from you and no one else knows about it. It was directly awarded to me. Oh my God, I just got rich, theoretically, in my mind, if nothing else, right? So that's a direct award. Direct award, sole source, set aside. That is what the world knows. Now, all of those things, for the most part, can be based on points. They can be based on price, right? Lowest technical acceptable price, LPTA. You have best value. That's for a different session. But the other thing down here is consideration and points. Let's go back to the cell phone example when I said it was 10,000 cell phones, right? And me and Nokia, I don't even know if they're still around, but me and Nokia, we're competing, we're fighting head to head. This thing's not set aside or anything like that, but when our bids came in, our prices were so close. So close. There's two things that can happen. If I was not service disabled veteran, but if I was HubZone, I can get up to a 10% price differential on what's called full and open. That means anybody can go after it, right? So I can get 10 points. So I got shortlisted, one of 3. For this argument, one of 2. And so they added 10 points to my bid because everything equates to numbers, and I effectively won. That's understanding the system, right? Now, these are the ways certifications work. This is it, right? That's it, right? Now, a lot of times we hear things that are mystical, right? Where someone says, hey, I got this work sole source, I'm 8A, HubZone, I'm super certified, da-da-da-da-da. Those things do come into play, but you can't make a business out of it. They don't happen enough. I've had some really cool things happen to me and my clients, but you can't really make a business out of those one-offs like that. So what we're going to talk about a little bit more is getting into these certifications and actually making them work. Okay. Now, why get certified? Okay. So I'm going to get in my Wayback Machine. Those of you who understand what that is, I'm going to go way back, right? Before I knew anything about certifications. That means when I basically got out the Army in 94. Maybe 95, right? I go way back. And in those days, we used to call into major corporations, landline, phone up, right? Calling into CEOs. The company I worked for, we were a brokerage firm. We would buy their used mainframe computers, sell them new, and then turn around and resell those mainframes to other companies or even out of the country, right? It was a great day, right? Then I started learning about certifications. And then all of a sudden, when I started learning about certification, guess what? I quit selling stuff, right? I quit closing the deals, and I couldn't understand why, because I didn't understand why I went through all the trouble to get certified, right? I know what people have told me. I knew that. I knew what people had told me to do, but it didn't dawn on me, and I wasn't able to put 2 and 2 together in those early years of what was going on. So here we're going to talk about it. Now, one of the things you hear me say, and you hear some of my contemporaries say, is it levels the playing field. Now let me share with you what level the playing field means in my world, right? Level the playing field means in my world, if I was competing against, I don't know, Ford, General Motors, whoever, right? Level the playing field doesn't mean that I get to come in and, be over these guys. Basically what it means is I get invited to the table, because truth be known, they don't want me at the table because I'm a small business, right? Even though I bring no threat to them, they don't want me in the room because I'm a small business, and that equates to more competition. So it levels the playing field on getting you in the room. And if you can understand that and you know how to market your business, the world is yours. I've been invited to some really cool things because I'm certified. I've been in box seats at the Rockies, football, I've been to concerts and all of this kind of stuff and sat in the suites, all because I was certified. The company or the agency knew I was certified. Let's say company, because agencies aren't supposed to do that. The company, right? And, unbelievable time, right? So it levels the playing field by getting you in the room. It limits the competition. Sure enough, you going back to the cell phone opportunity. It's called the rule of two in the federal space, right? If there's a big opportunity coming up and I want to block those guys, what I do is I there's tricks of the trade. We get this thing set aside, service disabled veteran, woman owned, whatever. I've effectively blocked the rest of the world. It's the coolest thing ever, right? And you still got to win it, but you blocked all the big corps that would normally win this thing, or you blocked even companies. This thing got set aside, woman owned, right? That's all that's going to play. Even me with my smile, I'm not going to stop them from me. It's not going to make them let me into that deal, right? So it blocks the competition. Oh, this is great stuff, right? So it creates subcontracting relationships. I get stuff all the time from people who are going after deals and said, Andre, we're not big enough, or we don't have the capital reserves, we don't do any of that, but we love to subcontract with you, right? And vice versa. My clients, we usually are prime contractors, so we don't do a lot of subcontract, going after subcontracting work, but it opens that door for you too. Partnerships and mentor protege. Now, before we get into partnerships and mentor protege, because those are the more complicated elements of certifications, look at my image there. I love this image. This is the coolest image ever, right? What you see is the big elephant being hoisted in the air on a teeter-totter or by a little mouse. This is how most people think certifications work. This is really how they think that they go get certified, and it's this big corporation who's been around for 75 years, $3.4 billion, which is still a large corporation, $3-4 billion, right? And we're going to come take that deal. No, it doesn't happen. And it's only happened for me a couple times, right? I don't put a lot of energy in trying to do that, but I've had that happen. But like I said, they're one-offs and they don't happen enough for you to really build a business on, right? So just keep that in mind. Partnerships and mentor proteges. These are whenever you see a company go from zero, bing, right, to 30, 40 million, 30, 40 million, 50 million in a very short period of time. These are the instruments that they use. They use the partnership and the mentor protege agreement. So that's some of those things that they can do. We are not going to get that much into that on this because this is about certifications, and there's a whole process in which we have to do to get you in official joint ventures and partnerships and to make them work. Case in point, real short, when we talk about partnerships, there are several types. There are teaming agreements, right? There's subprime relationships. So most people are accustomed to subcontractor, right? So you'll have a prime contractor and I'm a sub to that prime, right? That prime actually has a contract with the agency. I'm their sub. Teaming agreement is me and another company, same size or bigger. It can be bigger, it could be smaller, right? We enter into a relationship, but we're both seen as two separate companies in this opportunity that's equal, right? Teaming agreement, right? And there are some variances of those, right? But I usually try to write them where we're both pretty much equal. So you'll hear me say the team of, or if I'm writing a proposal for you, it says the team of, right? That indicates to the contracting officer that there's two companies equally providing necessary services that come together to create this, to go after this work, to fulfill it. So those are those things. And then we have joint ventures. We have commonplace joint ventures. So a lot of times in joint ventures, you'll see two companies come together and they create a third. That's become commonplace, but that's not the law. The law doesn't say how your joint venture has to be arranged, right? There's horizontal joint ventures. There's well, that's vertical joint ventures. There's horizontal joint ventures. There's joint ventures in name. There's all kind of joint ventures, right, that are legal entities. But it's just become commonplace for two companies to come together and create a third because that third is easier to manage, right? Then there's the mentor protege. The mentor protege, where a mentor, larger company or more experienced company, mentors the protege, which is a smaller company. And why would you ever do that, right? Why would we ever want to do that? For simple reasons. Points, which is consideration. You can do it out the goodness of your heart. You can do that. But it has to be a symbiotic relationship, right? So the big corporate is going to get something out of it. What they're going to get is they're going to get points, right? If it's DOD, depending on the type of situation it is, it could be monetary returns. It could be a lot of things, right? Well, it could be several things. That's why a big corp would even mentor a small competitor for those elements, right? And of course, the last one here is doing business with other certified companies. Veterans like to do business with veterans. Women like to do business with women-owned firms, on and on and on, right? But those are why you get certified. Why you don't get certified is because I want to be a millionaire. We all do, right? But you can become a millionaire without getting certified. One of the issues that do plague small businesses is we get certified to compensate for something that we're missing. Marketing, management structure, all of those things. But in actuality, when you start winning work of any substantial size, it exacerbates those problems. So just be careful about that, but you can always come to the SBDC, and of course, the team can help you through that. Anyone who have any questions, feel free to jot them down and we'll continue on, right? One of the other big things that, and just so everyone knows that I have companies that are one-person companies that I help win deals for. I help write their proposals, submit it, we won. And I have large corps that are $400 million, tribal entities. Once again, where I'll travel to, one case in point, DC or Puerto Rico, come back, and the only thing I do is just give them the information. They run with it from there, right? So there's all kind of different levels in here. There's all kind of different contracts in the governmental sphere. All kinds, my friend. All kinds, right? And they don't all look like what you think they look like. There's a whole plethora of ways that the government can contract with someone. Contracting, grants, OTAs, other than contract. There's all kind of SBIRs, STTRs, all of that kind of stuff, right? So there's a lot out there. But one of the first things that companies make a mistake with is not knowing who they want to sell to, right? They come with that bank robbers mentality. I'm coming to the government because that's where the money's at. Well, I don't go to the hospital because that's where the, don't get me started. But anyway, so you got to know who you want to sell to because they all buy differently. Like I said earlier, they all buy differently. State and municipal agencies, right? A lot of times they're a lot more cut and dry. Sometimes they're a lot easier to penetrate than a federal agency, so I'm not a fan of taking you out of your expertise. I'm not a fan of that. If you don't like being on the phone, I'm not going to have you on the phone. If you don't like networking per se, I'm not going to send you to an event where it's hardcore networking. I'll send you to industry day, right? Where just the decision makers are there. Well, there's other people there, but the decision makers are there. And you can get the name of the decision makers right there, shake their hands, and then leave if you want, right? There's all kind of strategies amongst these things. So, and then there's federal agencies. A lot of people want to sell to a federal agency because they think the federal agency has a big budget. Let me share something with you can have a contract for $100,000, $200,000, and it can come from $100,000 contract. It can come from a $10 million company, right? You can have a $100,000 company coming from a $40 billion company. What difference does it make? Still $100,000. So why come out of your expertise to do something that's just not, where you feel comfortable? So I try to keep people within their, their comfort zone until you really get your base, right? Those roots in the soil where you feel comfortable, and then we scale up from there. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start to. Oops, sorry about that. What we're going to do now is we're going to actually start to get into certifications. Now, I've had a lot of success. Excuse me. And guess what? I've had a lot of failure, folks. A lot of failure. Most deals we don't win. Yeah, that's just the nature of it, right? That's why you see all the baseball analogies. I'm from St. Louis. I'm a baseball guy, right? I love baseball. So, but as you know, most batters strike out more than they hit. No one's batting 1,000, right? It's just not happening. Most people are batting around 300. You do get the specials. That's going to be, your low 400s. But most people are going to be like 250, 283 to about 350, right? On average, something like that. If you're a pitcher, God bless you, or a back catcher, you're probably batting like 186 or something. But anyway, I'm digressing again. So knowing the rules of the game is really, really important. This is my whole power base. So when you get certified, you have to know the rules of how those certifications operate. Because trust me, most of the people that you talk to don't know how they operate. They just don't know, right? So the Code of Federal Regulations 49A Part 26, right? If you get DBE, that's the backbone of the DBE certification right there. And it has all these elements in it. Participation by disadvantaged business enterprises in the Department of Transportation Financial Assistance Program, right? So, but when you go get certified, what does that mean? I went to go, you go get certified with CDOT, right? You want to do business with CDOT. But did you know CDOT gives money to around 41 other entities throughout the state doing normal course of budgetary allocations? And all of those different elements, those cities, those counties, those municipalities that get CDOT money has to adhere to the DBE certification. But most people who get certified, they go over here and they chase CDOT down in Denver, right? Like, why won't I go out to, and just so you know, transportation is rail, it's roads, it's buses, it's planes, and it's maritime. We don't have a lot of maritime here, right? But it affects all of that throughout the state, right? So when you thought you got DBE certified to go after CDOT, right? Which is nothing wrong with, I love CDOT, right? I have a contract with CDOT with the Connect-to-Dot program. Love those guys. But we're talking about the whole state. And theoretically, we're talking about the whole United States because every state in the union, Hawaii, and our territories have the dot, whatever the dot, M dot, C dot, D dot, whatever it is, right? They have a dot. And that goes all across the world, So when you get certified, stop thinking small. You got to stop that. You have to stop that, right? Now, let's move into and the DBE is a federal certification applied at the state level, at the municipal level, just so you know, right? So then we have the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, Part 19, right? 19. That dictates small business programs. That's small business, total set-asides, partial set-asides, reserves. It's all right there. And so the people that we're interacting with our certification, right, may know elements of this, but they're so busy, they may not have time to know this by nuance. They just don't have time for that. And even when I talk about these elements, I don't read them every year. I don't go to bed reading these things, right? I'll glance at them throughout the year, when I need something, I'll know the rules, and I'll give you a perfect example of what I'm talking about. I once had a contracting officer um, that we were going after some work, and we had built a fairly decent rapport. And I'll never tell you who it is. You can torture me till all you want. And I said, "Hey, you know, how big is the budget for this thing?" Because we were trying to reverse engineer the pricing model so we could target it, right? And I said, "What's your budget?" She says, Andre, I can't tell you that." I said, "No, I understand. But the last time you all purchased this product, what was the overall budget?" And she goes, "Andre." I go, "Yes." She goes, "I can't tell you that." And I said, "Okay, fair enough." She said, "But what I will tell you is in the far part, whatever part, this, that tells you exactly where we're at." Oh my God, you don't get any better than that, right? Other than her just telling me what price to bid, right? That was awesome. But it had a tragic ending because once we figured out the pricing, my client at the time, this is no lie, said, "Hey, can we add another 80,000 to that?" And I was like, But you can do what you want, Mr. and Mrs. Client. I can't tell you what to do." And we end up losing it because we overbid it. So, but anyway, but knowing the rules is how this works. When you're certified and you understand the rules with certifications, it's very, very powerful. States are the same way. Now, states you do, for me, for a person like me, I love state because it's cut and dry. I win a lot of municipal deals. They're really cut and dry, right? It's price points, it's that, we win. The problem is for us, we can't maneuver like we can in the federal space. It's harder to maneuver, right? And that depends on the size of the municipalities. So when we're talking about states, state purchasing, or we talking about capital city purchasing, right, where all the rules and regs kind of hang out, right? It gets a little harder to maneuver, right? It gets a little harder to get in front of people. But I'll give you another example of this. There was a deal we were going after in Boulder, and talked to the person, and they said they couldn't sole source work. They're not allowed to do that. I was like, "Really?" She said, "No, we're not allowed to sole source work." I said, "Okay, I understand. I get it." I went back, did my research, and typed it in sole source Boulder contracting, or comma contracting. Toop, 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 toop. All these opportunities popped up that had been sole sourced. So then when I went back and I said, "Hey, you know what? I went back and I did a little research, and I see that there is a way to sole source this. Here's the actual rules, and here's what has to apply, this on and on, right?" So, but it's a little harder to do that in your capital cities. Your smaller municipalities, now let me share something with you all. If you look at the screen right here, you'll see state purchasing, right? Regulations. You'll see certification slash preference, right? So in the state of Colorado recognizes the service disabled veteran, um, and it's preference points. It's not as official. It's not a official program or certified or anything like that. It's a preference system, and they have their pricing thresholds. When you get down into smaller municipalities, most of them do not accept any certification. They don't. Right? Social economic certifications for as business is concerned. Most of them don't. So if you're targeting municipalities, depending on the size of the municipality, I don't have anything with you getting certified to be certified, but don't get certified and then get frustrated because all of the municipalities that you're targeting don't accept certifications, right? It's just they just don't do it, right? Corporate purchasing, and you see in corporate purchasing, you see supplier diversity, pricing thresholds, completely different model. Supplier diversity, I teach this course, it's a six session course. It Supplier diversity is different in its own right. We'll touch on it, but we won't get that far into it. Marketing to the government, certifications, we're talking certifications here, right? Um, Bad news for everyone out there who kind of drank the Kool-Aid, right? That's like a little inner city term or country term, depending on where you grew up, right? Um, so not all governmental agencies, even in the federal space, play with certifications. They don't. And kind of let me explain what I'm saying before anybody leaves or anything like that. Um, there are instances where certifications do not take precedent. And if you ever look at a solicitation, a governmental solicitation, take a real simple one, and you look at the the judging factors of that qualification or the rating, or how this solicitation is going to be scored, and it'll tell you on very simple ones. You'll see performance history, knowledge of the product. Well, performance history may be 30 points. Um, Knowledge of the agency, maybe 5 points or something like that. Well, let's say 10. It'll be 4 or 5 elements there. The last one, in most cases, are certifications, right? Certifications may be worth 3 points, 3%, 5 points, right? But all those other things come into play. So if your pricing is on the mark and you're getting a full 50 points for your pricing, it doesn't matter if you're certified, right? So just understand that with a grain of salt. In fact, most governmental entities do not accept um, any certification at the municipal level. This should say at the municipal level. And a lot of agencies will do this. They have their own vehicles. They're called vehicles, right? Of how they do things. They could be IDIQs, which stand for indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts, which are these open, a lot of times very broad contracts, right? You got government-wide acquisition contracts, like a GSA schedule, that kind of stuff, blanket purchase agreements, cooperative agreements. An agency has all these things at its disposal, and sometimes it makes it really hard. You'll have to be on this instrument, IDIQ, whatever it may be, Comet 2, whatever, Nets, whatever it is, and then you got to be certified on top of that, right? So those kind of things do happen out there, right? And but I have a solution for everybody. Before you go out and get certified, or if you're certified, just do this. Our organizations do this. I think I can do it through the SBDC and other stuff like that. But a simple, very simple, inexpensive 10-hour market assessment saves you thousands of dollars in just effort, marketing, and in even years in failure. Here's how it works. Let's say that you're trying to do business for this argument, say with DOD. Let's say the base is here, right? Let's just say the base is in Colorado. And you're going to go get your 8A certification, and you sell, going back to cell phones. Now I'm gonna share something with you all on certifications in a minute, but we go there. So a market assessment, we reach out to those 5-6 bases here. Let's include Missile Command. Let's include a couple of other things in there. Let's say we got 50 agencies, including, Fed Center, something like that. Simple. We pick up the phone and say, hey, we sell cell phones, here's who we are. Love to send you our capability statement. But my question is, last time you purchased a cell phone, how did you purchase it? Did you use it? Was it on 8A? Was it on a GSA schedule, out of curiosity? And they'll tell you. And then you look at those 100 calls that you made, and you'll see a pattern emerge. And that pattern dictates what certification you should be on. You do it with the city, right? If you call the city and you say IT services, they're going to say, oh, we have a cooperative agreement. You call 100 capital cities. Well, there's only 50 capital cities, right? You call 50 capital cities, and all of them tell you that, most of them are on cooperative agreements, non-certified, non-restricted, right? That tells you exactly what you need to do. Then why go through all the trouble to become DBE if that DBE certification does not apply, right? So when companies come to me, a lot of times they're super certified and they've been trying to market and haven't won anything in 3-4 years. I kid you not. 3-4 years, haven't won a single governmental contract. They're doing commercial, they're doing B2B, yeah. But they haven't won a single federal contract in 3-4 years. And the first thing I do is say, hey, what are you doing? How do you know they even buy your product? And I'll say, hey, you went after governmental contracts. Did you get a debrief? How did they, and they haven't done any of that. So one of the things with coming to the SBDCs, we teach you all that. You don't have to worry about that. Certification roadmaps before we get into certifications. I'm gonna check time here. So Rachel, we got like 30 minutes, correct?
Yes.
All right. So here's the certification roadmap. These are the certifications. These are the certifications that the average individual can do. You and I are, in some ways, we're average, right? You know, this is what we can do. I like to consider myself special, but then the kids like to make fun of that. So we have federal certifications, and you see what they are: 8A, HubZone, Service Disabled Veteran, woman-owned small business, economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. SDB, in the old days, SBE, small business, wait a minute, small disadvantaged business? Oh, it was socially disadvantaged business. In the old days, was a real certification. It stood by itself. So you could get 8A certification, and then you could get SDB certification, right? I was SDB certified for years until they took it away, right? So now it's voluntary. It's kind of, you know, self-certifying. It's not what it used to be. You have CDOT. CDOT has its 2 certifications. City and County of Denver has its certifications. RTD has the SBE, but they will accept SBE and DBE. And then you have private sector. Now, remember what I said earlier about certifications being tied to funding sources. And one of the things you don't want to do is take my cell phone and get DBE certified when they would never buy a cell phone under DBE certification. Because then each year, every couple of years, you're trying to keep this thing up, right? And when you got all these certifications, now what you need to know is every city replicates the same certification. I don't know if you knew that, right? So if you go to Los Angeles has its own set of capital city certifications. It does, right? So you think about that for a second. As you go into each state, at the municipal level, at the capital city level, at the state level, they may require you to get reciprocal certifications or additional certifications. Next thing you know, you got 15, 20, 30 certifications that you have to try to keep up every year, right? And still haven't won anything. Just saying. This is for the City and County of Denver. These slides are going to be made available to everyone. These slides actually have hot links in them, the images here. So as soon as you hit them, it'll take you directly to the site and you can start your process. These are the different certifications: airport concessions, DBE, right? Who's eligible, size of the business. Now, when we look at like DBE, well, let's come over to airport concessions, right? Overall cap of $56 million. Your company can be up to $56 million if you're a bank, telecom, or whatever. $56 million. That's, for us, most of us, that's not a small business, right? Even if we look at DBE, it's 28 million, 48. I don't know how they come up with the 48, but $1 million, right? That's a very good living for a lot of people. So you get DBE certified, you know, and you're going after construction work and all of this kind of stuff, you can have a nice sized business. That's how this works. That's how certifications work. So what I'm going to share with you now is something that is really important to know. So I'm going to separate construction from the rest of the world. I'm going to separate the two, right? So construction is the only procurement entity other than medical for the most part, and not so much in medical, but construction, where it's a industry of trades. So if I'm a construction worker, let's say I'm a carpenter or a licensed plumber, electrician, right? I have to be licensed. Major corporations don't have all these people just sitting there not doing anything, right? So the industry itself is designed to subcontract out. It has to survive. It is the only industry other than medical to a degree. You can have a brain surgeon, you can have a registered nurse, but for the most part, construction is the only industry that by its very nature has to subcontract. So when you think about people who become very successful in certifications, you'll see a lot of them are in construction, right? Because there's a natural occurrence to subcontracting. So when you start getting your certifications and all of that kind of stuff, just keep in mind that you might be in an industry where it's not forced or encouraged to subcontract, right? So just think about that. I've touched almost every, and I had a client that did NASA payloads, right? So I've been all over the spectrum. But understanding, when you go through all this trouble to get certified, how they actually work is everything. Because I can guarantee you, you go out here and you get all these certifications, be it that you're a minority, non-minority, woman, guy, what, doesn't make a difference. If you don't understand this system, I can promise you, you will fail if you're trying to sell to the government. I can promise you that. And if you do succeed, I've been around long enough where people say, oh, Andre, we succeeded without whatever. The wind changed because budget allocations change, and they were a multi-million-dollar firm, and now they're $100,000, $200,000 company. And it's tragic, right? But there's all these rules of why these kind of things happen. And if you become a client of the SBDC and we sit down, I'll lay all this out. But municipal certifications, let's start here. These are all state municipal certification. So state government is theoretically considered, or technically considered, a municipality. For me, I separate the two and I say state governments. And then when I talk about municipalities, I'm talking about cities all the way down to co-ops, right? But municipal certifications are usually with the biggest city in the state and whoever they give money to. I know that some people say, you get certified with the city and county of Denver and there's certifications all over the place. You can do work all over the city. That's not true. Well, over the state. That's not true, right? Here's why. Once again, certifications are tied to budgets. And if the city and county of Denver did not give where I'm at, Erie, Colorado, money, why would Erie, Colorado accept city and county of Denver certifications, right? There are exceptions when cities are just trying to, for a lesser term, play nice. There are times when and they'll accept anybody's certification because they're trying to track who's coming through the door, right? But that's for a different day. This is City and County of Denver, and as I said, this is an active link. You see it at the top. You'll go to the City and County of Denver, hit this link, go on, read the pages before you go there. And this is where you start your certification. If you get stuck, I can help you. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll actually see the different certifications that the City and County of Denver actually offers. This certification now, you heard me at first say any certification can decline you. Your odds of getting these certifications are very, very high because there's no time limit of how long you've been in business. There's really no dollar value of how much money you have to make. But let me warn you, if you're in the negative and your business shows that it's in the negative, you really have to explain how you're going to get out of the negative to get certified, because they realize that a person who's in the negative isn't going to really be concentrating on the work. You're going to be concentrating on how you're going to get paid, right? And so a lot of these things, what you also have to realize is even when you win the work, you still may not get paid for 20, 30 days. Well, not even that, 45, 50, 60, 90 days, right? Here's for the, this one right here is for CDOT. So to get certified with, I'm sorry, this is actually RTD. There's an error on here. This is RTD. RTD has a paper application that you'll still submit. That at the bottom there where you see RTD application download link, if you hit that, it'll take you to where the hard copy document is, and you can fill it out and submit that too. This is actually CDOT right here. CDOT, SBE, DBE certifications are right here. Now the SBE certification allows you to also enter into a mentor protege program. That's very much worth taking a look at. It's an advanced system. So once you become certified or you're thinking about getting certified with CDOT, sit down with a certification expert and let them tell you how these kind of things work. Right? Now, this is very important because what I like to do is I like to tell companies that you have to know who you're dealing with and why you're dealing with them, right? Because when you actually approach CDOT, you got to remember they talk to hundreds of people, because I know them over there. They talk to hundreds of people, right? And a lot of times when people say, hey, you should get certified and all these kind of things, you go off and you get certified. And what you realize is that you got certified for no reason. These are the regions of CDOT, but here's what I want to show you all real quick before we end this and open it up for questions. Is the blue area is construction, horizontal construction, right? Certifications apply there. The yellow is purchasing. Certifications do not apply, and these are both CDOT, right? So if you get DBE certified and you do office supplies, you have to ask yourself, did I get certified? Why did I get certified? Because office supplies is part of purchasing and not contracting. Now, the part in the middle where you see the circle overlaps are the elements in which it could be either or, right? Depending on who it's being applied to. So where you'll see professional services, right? How about project materials, right? If it's on the construction side, yeah, your certification applies. If it's on the purchasing side, it does not apply, right? So if you're doing project materials for internal usage, there's no certification. So these are some of the things that really hem companies up when we talk about doing business or getting certified and understanding. So I welcome everyone to hit these hot links to get certified. Talk to me, spend a little time talking to me. Let me get you set up in the right direction first, and then we can go from there. In the federal system, this is 8A, very complicated certification. Most people kind of dumb it down when you actually talk to a certifier about it, right? To kind of dumb it down, say it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it is extremely powerful. However, most 8A firms never win anything, just so you know, right? So, and on average, it takes 18 months, 2 years for you to win your first deal, even under 8A. So you want to talk to us about that. You know, this is a hot link. You can start your application right now if you wanted to. HubZone. Now, let me quickly go back to 8A real quick. So a lot of people think you have to be a minority to get 8A. I have helped non-minorities get 8A certified. It's based on the element of being disadvantaged. Are you disadvantaged or not? And that's the argument, and that's in a document that you have to write. You're not automatically associated with being disadvantaged. African Americans, Hispanics, Native Americans, Hasidic Jews are all considered disadvantaged. Doesn't mean you can't get it. Remember, even most of those individuals in those groups can't get their 8A, right? Because it's based off of disparity. Are you disparate or not? And how do you show this agency that you're disparate? It's really, really important. HubZone. Anybody can get a HubZone. If you fit these rules, it's non-ethnic, it's non-gender specific. It is based off the census tract and the median income of that area. Now, that does not necessarily mean that you're in a poor area. That's where people make a mistake. When I was in North Dakota, my house was in the area of UND, the big university there, but we were in a hub zone. And it was a somewhat affluent area, but all those college kids, you know, not having jobs suppressed the actual medium income in the area. So we were hub zone. Most universities are hub zone, just so you know. And there's a hub zone map. There's a hot link to where you actually submit. You talk to my team and we'll get you set up and get you moving forward on that. And also on the left-hand side, you'll see where how these certifications can really be used. Sole source, direct award, competitive, set aside. See how it all ties together, right? So now that we're actually looking at the certifications, we actually see how they apply and what they can be used for. This is a little information about the highlights about the certification. Women-owned business, how it applies and how those kind of elements work. We won't get too far into that. The SBA is really in flux right now on, you know, who's going to be responsible for what platforms are they going to use, right? It changes every like half a year or quarter of a year on what, but these are the things that are active right now. And once again, there's an active link right here that you can actually go and start your application. Service Disabled Veteran certification now. The VA has stopped accepting applications. And here's what I mean by influx. The DOD has always said, if you're a veteran and you have a DD Form 214, it's up to someone else to basically, they didn't say this, but this is what was implied. It's basically up to someone else to prove that you're not a veteran-owned company. The VA itself had its certifications, veteran certification, which my firm is certified as a veteran entity. But part of that responsibility is being removed from the VA and given to the SBA. Now, when I was in, I think I was in DC, maybe, or somewhere, I was talking to the VA there and I was like, how could you all do this to us? Right? How's the SBA gonna see my medical records to be able to say that I'm service disabled veteran? That's protected under HIPAA. And they actually didn't know. They actually didn't know how that was going to be done. But right now, what's going to happen is the veteran part of the certification, which you probably would send a copy of your DD Form 214, will go directly to the SBA, right? You wouldn't send your classified copy, right? But you would send your redacted copy to the VA, and then they're certified. But right now, the system is gapped. That process will not start until 2023 sometime, so I don't know what they're going to do in between that. But you cannot submit your applications to vet bids anymore for your veteran certification. Now, corporate certifications, give me 2 minutes. Under corporate certifications, we fall up under supplier diversity, completely different system. Supplier diversity is governed by the board of directors of a major corporation. So it is forced down by the board of directors. There are no set-asides. There are no anything like that because that offends public law. Supplier diversity is, like I say, a completely different system. That is about really getting in the room and meeting someone. You actually have to register even to be able to see their solicitations. We can help you through that, walk you through that. You'll find corporate entities probably the hardest organizations to penetrate. Seem like they would be easy, but they're the hardest. But there is a way to do it. There is a way to go to their corporate events, their vendor days and all of that to be able to do that. And also in corporations, there's 2 sides of the house. There is the internal side, supplier diversity. There's the external side, which is governed by any contracts that they may have. So if a major corporation, like I have no affiliation with these folks, but let's say IBM have a governmental contract, right? Supplier diversity is internal IBM. So if you're doing janitorial work, that's internal IBM, that's supplier diversity. IBM may have a contract to control a SCIF or some other building or whatever in the government, that's external. So that's governed by the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulations, that dictates that they got to have subcontractors. So understanding how your certifications come into play are very, very important. A lot of times, supplier diversity, you're going to have to go through their portal, register in their portal. They're going to say, hey, you register in our portal. You know, when someone needs you, we'll reach out to you. Okay. Everybody's told the same thing. But if you want to penetrate that corporation, come talk to us and I'll tell you how to penetrate that corporation. Here are the hot links for the corporate entities. Mountain Plains Minority Supplier Development Council is part of the National Minority Council. They're located in Centennial. They can certify you with corporations. Women Business Enterprise Development Company, WeBank. They do it on the women's side. Both excellent organizations, absolutely excellent. You do get in a room with those guys. The Gay Lesbian Chamber of Commerce, they certify third-party certifications for LGBTQ+. That's who does that. We do not have that certification in the federal space. It does exist in the corporate space, though. National Veterans Business Council, and the National Veteran-Owned Business Association are 2 of the largest corporate certifying veteran organizations out there, right? And their business model works a lot like WeBank and the Minority Council. So we can talk about all of that. I can show you how to work. I can show you how to network. I can show you how to basically go national on your certification. And answer any of those kind of questions. Now, with that said, got through all of that, got time for questions. So if anybody has any questions, please just fire away. I'll answer them all for you.
Awesome, Andre. We have a question. Based on your experience, what agency would work better to get software development contracts? I am a woman and Hispanic with an LLC in Colorado, and I am evaluating if getting a SB certification
Okay. Okay, that's a very fair question. So I'm gonna answer it a little differently. First, I'm gonna say, do you have security clearance, right? If you don't have security clearance, that will limit some of the intelligence agencies that you will target. Are you doing handheld apps or are you doing computer apps? Those are different, right? And then finally, is those apps created by you, or are you looking at doing custom programming? So those are the different questions. If you're doing custom programming where you can program on a lot of different things, any of your civilian agencies outside of the intelligence agencies will work, any of them, because they all have programming issues. Now, it also depends on what language you program in, right? So they still have defense systems that program in Ada. Ada's older than me, I think. But you know, it just really kind of depends. But I would go with any of my civilian agencies, especially if you have a handheld app, because it's easier to get in front of those guys with that, if that helps. But, you know, set up a time, you know, I'll pull the research and we'll take a look at it.
Awesome, thanks, Andre. Follow-up question. Also, do you know if the certifications are also required by non-government companies? If so, is there a website where we can find the projects that require a SB certification?
Okay, so non-governmental entities. So all major corporations, Fortune level. So let's just make this argument, say $1 billion or more, and there's like 1,000 of them, right? $1 billion, I think it's like 5,000 of them. $1 billion or more has supplier diversity. All those corporations are going to ask you for a certification. Most of them don't care what certification, as long as you have a certificate to show that you are who your company is certified what it is, right? So all of those guys, but like I said, that system works differently. So you're not going to get work because you're set aside. Most of the databases for those kind of elements did go away once the government stopped forcing them to put their stuff out if they had contracts. So most of those went away. But there is Find RFP. I think it's Find RFP. Find RFP, I think. You will see corporate databases, corporate opportunities in there. There is a couple of private organizations, a bunch of them really, who are trying to get corporations to do it, but there is, unlike the governmental space, there is not one consolidated location to find that information. But I probably can give you a couple of names of a couple of them where you can hit and miss and find stuff.
Awesome, thank you, Andre. Another question, how do we decide which certifications we should apply for? Or is the best method to apply for any certification in which we are eligible? I'm a minority woman.
Okay, so it just, like we said, it really depends on who you want to target, right? So that dictates the certification because it's tied to money, because you're not going through all this not to get paid, I hope, right? So if it's City and County of Denver, yes, by all means, get City and County of Denver certifications if you're targeting City and County of Denver. If you're targeting Erie, Colorado, where I live, that's coconut smile, my friend, right? So you have to come out here and you have to meet people. Certifications do not apply. None of them apply. Because what happens is a lot of the smaller municipalities don't want to go into litigation, right? They can't afford it. So if they don't attach themselves to a bigger entity like Denver or something like that, they can't really set things aside, right? So then your certification will come into consideration, right? Which is points. So you would always ask the agency, will you consider points for this, right? But what I would suggest you do is give us a call at the SBDC and let me see if I can do a market assessment for you for what you do. So then we would know exactly what type of agencies would utilize your product or service. Exactly.
Awesome.
Before you go through all the problems to get certified.
Thank you, Andre. The next question is, does it cost money to get a certification?
Depends. Time versus effort, right? So all federal certifications are free. Free, right? DBE, free. Municipal certifications at the capital city level, they do charge. They charge a small stipend for processing, like City and County of Denver for its 7 certifications charges you $200, right? That's it. Corporate certifications all cost you money. It can be anywhere from $500, depending on the size of your business, to $5,000 to $25,000. depending on the size of your business and who you're marketing to, right? And they go into different levels: small business, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, corporate member. So, it just really kind of depends. But once again, it depends on who you're trying to get in front of, who you feel comfortable marketing to. And let me be frank with everyone. If you're on this Zoom call and you got things going on, it's working for you, all of that kind of stuff, and you do really good at selling to companies, get corporately certified, and then let us coach you on how you're going to win corporate deals before you get out of your sphere of influence and get into something where you're going to eat up a lot of your time with no benefit. Finally, with certifications, you pay for your time. Organizations like the SBDCs and those kind of places can help you get certified at no cost. Simple certifications. So if you're a 1-person, 5-person company, no stock ownership, single investor type things, yes, they can help you get certified at no cost. If you're a complicated entity with the element of maybe getting rejected because of the way your company structure is, then you might want to consider hiring an organization to do that who can look out for you. But for the average small company, yeah, the SBDCs can help you with that, can walk you through that process.
Awesome, thank you. The next question is, how long does it take to go through the certification process for Denver?
Denver, I think, is running about 45 days now. CDOT is running a little shorter, but that's just the DBE and ESB certification, emerging small business. I think they're running like 45 days or something, a little less. Now that's after you submit your application and they don't ask for any more information. So with those certifications, you're going to submit your application. They're going to look through it, review it, make sure everything is there. If not, then they're going to request other information and they're going to give you a time frame. They might give you 7 days, 15 days to deliver this information. You deliver it, everything's there. Then they're going to set up a time for them to come out and do a site visit. The feds don't do site visits. When they come out and do the site visit, once the site visit is done, they want to see where you work. You don't have to necessarily have an office, all that kind of stuff, right? Then it goes back, it goes into committee, you get your certification. That works.
Awesome, thanks, Andre. And I think this is our last question. Do I need to get certified with Denver before the federal government?
Depends on who you want to target. I would if I've never done anything governmental, because you want to get your feet wet. Doing business with the city and county of Denver is a lot cheaper if you're in the city and county of Denver and trying to do business with the feds, right? So as I stated, to do this thing right, I travel all over the country for our clients. And because I'm trying to get in front of people. City and county of Denver, all their events are in city and county of Denver, right? So if you're close to Denver, it becomes a lot easier for you. So I would, if you want to get into governmental, here's the normal progression. Normally you start a business, you make a few sales, you expand. In real life, companies usually expand and they become regional before they start selling to the government, unless they're specialized, right? Then usually they'll start with municipalities, they'll graduate up to the capital cities, then they'll go federal. That's the old way of doing it. Now you got people who leave a job and they have this specialty. They go back to the major corporation that they worked for, they become contractors, they pick up work next week, right? So it just really kind of depends. There's no hard and fast rule, but I would do the initial research before I get certified, especially if you have to pay money, right? So as I stated, my company was DBE, we were everything at one time. And I can guarantee you this, right? We're so specialized that I never had to use my certification. That's how specialized we are in what we do. Now, all of my clients that are certified, yeah, we use that to our advantage. But my service disabled veteran, HubZone, all of that stuff that we were certified, we were so specialized that I never had to use it. Yeah.
Awesome, thank you, Andre. I think that's it for all our questions. Thank you again, Andre, for taking time to kind of go over this. I know it's a lot of information. But yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything else, you can always reach out to us here at the Boulder SBDC. I'll be sending out a follow-up email with the recording And I'll also send out Andre's slides as well.
All right, and I would like to thank everyone for joining. Like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the SBDC. They'll reach out to me, and we'll sit down. The consulting's free. You might as well do it. I don't like to say free, but it is free. For you, we'll sit down, move you forward, create a simple strategy that will work for you, and that's what I would invite everyone to do.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.